Hey everybody, I'm Jesse, and welcome to another edition of Gen X Thinks. And today I'm going to talk about what life was like before the internet. It'll be a nostalgic trip for a lot of us, and for any younger people it might be informative. But back before the internet, we entertained ourselves in a lot of ways that were they were physical. Everything wasn't digital back then. Everything wasn't online on a screen. So we had to do things. We played a lot of board games, a lot of card games. Remember Uno? Yeah, yeah. I played many hands of Uno with my brothers and sisters and friends. Go Fish was another game. We played a lot of card games. My dad always had a deck of cards, a regular, deck of poker cards too. So we'd play blackjack and poker, and I was familiar with poker by the time I was, 7 or 8 years old. I knew how to play poker, that kind of stuff. And then we had board games. We had a lot of board games that we would like to play. Monopoly being, the most famous one. But we also had pretty famous but lesser known, like the game of life. That was one of my favorites. That was cool because you could, go to college and be a doctor and make whatever, go around the board doing that. So that was a really fun game. I enjoyed playing. And we can't forget Candyland, right? Candyland was a great game too. We'd all during playing any of those games, me and my brother and my sisters, we'd get down on our knees around the coffee table, and roll the dice and move our little pieces and all that. So those were times I remember fondly, being piling up around the coffee table with my siblings. And outside, I think there's something to be said there about, going outside, which kids just don't do anymore. I mean, I drive around for work and I look outside and everything, and I never see kids outside really. It used to be we were always outside. Now, I mean, it is completely flipped. They're never outside. But anyway, we'd be outside a lot. Number one, our parents wanted us outside. Number two, we wanted to be outside. So, because we didn't, want to get our asses kicked for doing something wrong inside. When you're outside, you don't get in as much trouble with your parents. But playing outside a lot, we would invent games, played a lot of tag, and hide and go seek was big. We used to love that shit. But tag was really big. We play tag quite a bit. We liked to play tag, running around just all over the damn place, and we'd have to set boundaries. Or I had two sisters and one brother. Then my mom and dad, when I was younger, I had both my parents for a while there. And when we were little kids, all of us, we'd go out and we'd play football with our parents. Our parents would play football or baseball with us, We had enough, we didn't have enough people for full teams, but enough to play a little bit. We'd do that kind of stuff sometimes too when I was a little kid. But most of it was out there just running around doing shit, inventing shit, getting in trouble. Not in like law trouble, but like in scorpion trouble, or, snake trouble, that kind of trouble. But, yeah, and there's something to be said there for that kind of stuff, because back then, like, me and my brother would have to figure out the best way to attach a clothespin to a stick to make to make a good rubber band gun. And we'd have to figure out ways that didn't work and keep trial and error until we made a good rubber band gun. Or anything like that. A bow and arrow, we'd make our own bows and arrows and shit, and anything, slingshots with rubber bands, we'd make all kinds of stuff like that, and we had to use our imagination and figure out the best way to do these things. Now there are simple things, but still that process, that thought process, that figuring out was an exercise for our brains. We had to figure that shit out. If you wanted a slingshot, mom couldn't just get on Amazon and order you one. So and even if she could at that time, we couldn't afford to just buy shit like that. My family personally, we were poor, so me and my brother, we'd have to go scrap some shit together and make it by necessity. So just about all the stuff we had, me and my brother, we would fashion the shit together ourselves. And in a lot of ways, I think that's beneficial to a developing mind to do that kind of stuff, to figure things out, to figure out what doesn't work, why didn't that work. So then you have to modify it and find a way that it does work, that kind of stuff. And that is really lost on today's youth, today's young people. They don't have to go through that. You just hit the button on your phone and it downloads your app, and all the invention, all of the intuitiveness, all of the imagination has been already spent. It's created, it's there. So all you have to do is, tap on your phone and watch the little things move around. So there's no real exercise of the mind there, unless you get an app to specifically exercise your mind, but it's not necessary like it used to be for us. For us, it was by necessity. And a lot of times, especially young people, they won't do that kind of stuff unless they're forced to, unless you have to. Young people just want to have fun. They're not thinking about the bigger picture. They just want to have some damn fun. Probably the biggest difference pre-internet versus today is the telephones. Yeah. Because back in the day, when you get a phone call from your friend or something, when someone would call you at the house, most people, I would say, had one phone in the house, one telephone. And someone would call you, and it was kind of a big deal. I mean, not a great big deal, not like a birthday party or something, but it was kind of a big deal throughout that day anyway. And your mom would probably answer the phone. One person normally answered the phone all the time, most likely your mom. And they would answer the phone like, Smith residence. They wouldn't say hello or something like that. Some people did, but most people answered the phone by telling the person on the other line which family they had called, who they had called. So that way they know right off the bat if they got the wrong number or not. So she'd answer the phone, Smith residence, and then, she'd cover up the receiver, and yell, Rebecca or whatever, the phone, and then she'd set it down and walk away. And then Rebecca'd come running up and get the phone and stretch the cord around the corner into the bathroom. So that kind of stuff. And that's really changed a lot nowadays. I mean, we didn't have all this custom or caller ID and all that, right? We didn't know who was calling. The phone rang. We had no idea who was calling. It could have been anybody. It could have been an insurance salesman. And that was a thing back then. The phone would ring in the middle of dinner. People would be sitting down to eat and the phone would ring. That was a pain in the ass to get up, and go answer the phone. It might be an important call, but normally it was a salesman, a cold call. Hey, you want to buy some stock or some shoes or a vacuum or some shit, And so that kind of shit doesn't happen now. Now you have caller ID and, just look at your phone and set it down. So they can leave you a voicemail. And nowadays kids don't even use the phone, because you don't necessarily need a phone service now to use and have a phone. You just pick up Wi-Fi wherever. You can go to Starbucks or somebody's house or something and use your phone. They have communication apps like WhatsApp and Snapchat or whatever. I don't know what they're using now. It changes, but from talking to my nieces and nephews, they don't even use like the text on a phone or the phone, calling someone on the phone. They use an app, WhatsApp or some shit like that. I don't know. They might be using something now that I'm completely unaware of. I don't have kids in the house now, so I'm oblivious to all that shit. I still just use the phone and the text. Downloaded an extra app and all that shit is just another step of pain in the ass for me. So, but then and then you can see the person now. Now that's one thing that I expected in the future when I was a kid that we have now. You can talk to a person and look at them from the other side of the world with what's it, Facebook, FaceTime or whatever. And I'm sure Apple has their version of that, some kind of eye thing, but it's video calling. So maybe that's how they communicate now. They sit there and look at each other and just talk, which you couldn't do that back then. Back then we had to communicate over the phone, and if you called somebody, especially if it was a guy calling a girl or a girl calling a guy, then one of the parents would answer, and you'd have to do this whole thing and go through this whole thing with the parents, talking to the parents. Especially if it was a father that answered, then he'd give you the third degree, asking you all kinds of questions and shit, and that was just part of growing up. You were kind of hesitant to call your friend or your girlfriend or whatever sometimes, because you knew the parent would answer the phone. Unless that person knew exactly what time you were going to call, so your friend or your girlfriend could answer the phone. So there's a whole element of planning and strategy in communication back then that they just don't have to experience now, which made it unique, because a lot of previous generations didn't really have that growing up. They didn't have access to telephones like we did. And the later generations had cell phones. And television was just completely different. Now everything's available at any time. Just all you have to do is get the right streaming service or whatever, and you can just watch whatever the hell you want, whenever you want, however you want. It's insane now. But back when I was a kid, a television show was an event. Or a good movie came on the TV, and it sucked though because it was edited out. It was edited for content, and it was edited to fit this screen. Remember that? Because TVs were square back then. All TVs were square, but the movies were widescreen. So they'd have to lop off like 2/3 of the damn movie on the edges. So yeah. But you'd wait for that show or that movie to come on, and it was an event because it didn't just sit there waiting for you to play it. It came on during a specific time, and then it went away, and that was it. You wouldn't get to see that shit again. You know what I mean? Until the invention of the internet in some cases. So yeah, it was an event that you had to plan for, and you would plan your day around it and shit, and you would wait for a commercial, sit there and hold your pee or whatever till a commercial. You jump up and run to the bathroom and go, and then run back. Maybe jump up and go get a snack and come back, whatever. But yeah, that kind of stuff. There was a tension and an excitement and this kind of atmosphere around some of these television events, right? These movies or TV shows on television. And that's just completely gone away. Now everything's so convenient, so on demand that all that excitement and build up to these television movies and TV shows. That stuff is just gone. That's history. And that's a little sad to see because that was a special part of that, you know? That was really neat. That excitement that, you know, you got to feel something. It was something to look forward to. So, yeah, that was pretty cool. And back then, video games were something that you played once through. You went and bought a physical cartridge and you plugged it into your console and you played the game through to the end. And that was it. I mean, you could redo it just like rewatching a movie, but video games mirrored movies more, you know, back then than they do now. They were a lot more like movies. You'd put it in and you'd experience the game and then it would be over. You know, then you went and bought a new game or went, you know, returned that game to Blockbuster or whatever and got a new one, whatever. It wasn't like it is now. Now they have games that attract people for years and years and years. Okay, they're multiplayer online, uh, persistent worlds that keep going on and on and on. You know, and it's the most of it is the interaction with the other players that is the real draw. That's the game, interacting with other players, shooting them, palling up with them, hunting them, whatever. And that's more the trajectory that video games have taken, is to be persistent and to you play them forever. They don't want, you know, one shot and done video games anymore. They want repeat customers. They want you to pay, you know, pay week or pay monthly subscription fees and all this stuff. And that can be good or bad, you know, depending on how you look at it. I don't like this whole subscription fee thing. That just burns my ass. But these companies have figured out how to make the most money, and that's what they do. Now, these persistent online games, you know, I guess there's some value there. You meet people and stuff and talk to people and that kind of stuff. But we used to do that, you know, outside when I was a kid. We met and talked to people and had fun with them outside in the real world. So there's some of that. Um, and I think that the world before the internet was, in some ways, it was more dangerous, physically dangerous, because we'd have more accidents. We'd be jumping our bikes or, you know, skateboarding or doing something physical that was dangerous. I mean, we did dangerous shit. We had fun. It was a blast. And back then, someone would throw down the, you know, playing a video game and hit pause or whatever and throw their controller down in a heartbeat to go out bike riding with their friends or skateboarding with their buddies or whatever. That was no there was no contest there. You didn't, you know, tell your buddies who were out there riding bikes and having fun, no, I'm playing my game. You know what I'm saying? You threw that controller down and bolted out the door. Maybe you might, you know, yell to your mom, hey, mom, I'm going outside. And bam, you were out the door. Now, that's completely opposite. You couldn't drag a kid outside to save your life, you know, get them off that screen, whatever screen they're on, their phone, their tablet, their computer, their gaming console, whatever. They're not going to go outside and play. You know what I'm saying? That's ridiculous. So, yeah. Back then it was a lot more dangerous in that way physically. Nowadays you have other dangers at school and viral dangers and all the we've got other dangers now that we didn't have back then. But I'm saying just going outside and playing was more dangerous. Just the normal stuff kids do, that was more dangerous back then than, you know, just sitting down in front of your computer now. Though I think I think I think it was more healthy for our bodies and our immune systems and stuff to go outside and burn some calories, you know. And that's another thing that was different. I just I just think we were healthier. Even just, you know, you wanted to look something up or you wanted a book, you got up off the couch, got into your car or on your bike or whatever, and you went to the library, you checked out a book, you came home, or if you, or, you know, went to the mall and went to B. Dalton's or whatever and bought a book and came home, and we burned calories, we exercised just to do normal shit, you know. We didn't just stay on the couch and flick through the Amazon thing and press our thumb twice and have some shit delivered. That's not how it was. We had to be physical. Even the least physical people had to be, you know, a lot more physical than they do now. By necessity, they had to get up and go somewhere to do anything. They had to get up and go somewhere to get something. They had to go up and go to the bank to do their banking. It's not a lot, but you do that every day, you know, for a year, and you've burned some calories throughout that year. Now you do your banking online, you know, you pick your movies online, you order your books online, everything's just online. Everything's just handed to you, and you don't have to go get anything anymore. So I think that's a major shift as well. And I think that's one of the reasons why health has declined and obesity has gone up, because of this kind of stuff. We hear that a lot, especially with RFK now, you know, with the whole Make America Healthy Again, which I think is a good idea, you know. Uh, yeah, the convenience thing, that's great, but that's the thing that keeps coming up in my mind. Back then, we didn't know anything else. So everything was awesome. Everything was awesome back then because we didn't know anything else. Now, if you have these kids and put them back in our day, they would think that it sucked. They would be just miserable for a while anyway, until somebody actually got them to go outside and play. Then they'd probably see how awesome it was. But my point there is that, you know, this whole thing, once you get into this convenience rut, then it seems like it just seems like so much to go grocery shopping or to go to the bank, or, you know, just to do these simple things that used to be just daily routine. Nowadays, it just seems like so much. It just sounds exhausting to go, you know, to go to the library or something. I'm just gonna tap on my phone a couple times and do the exact same thing, get the exact same information, and I don't even have to leave the house. So I don't know. I and I'm guilty of it too. Don't get me wrong. If I'm not, I don't go to the damn bank if I don't have to. You know, do this shit on my phone. I'm not judging anybody. I'm just saying it's when you must do it, it doesn't seem like that big a deal. And that's back then we had to do things a certain way because we didn't have the internet, and it was okay. It was great. It was awesome because we didn't know anything else. We didn't know any better. And you can do that with any type of, regression in technology. If they sent back then, when we were growing up, if they sent us back to the caveman days where we had to go hunt down a deer with a spear and shit, or fight a woolly mammoth for our dinner instead of just going to McDonald's, I mean, shit, we would have thought it sucked. Dude, I want to ride my bike. I don't want to go woolly mammoth hunting with you, dude. Where's my skateboard? Whatever. So you go back in time and regress in technology, and it sucks. But when you're in it, it's great. And if that's all you know, it's awesome. So yeah, we were a lot more physical back then, more down to earth, more Everything was just more real back then. You know, you couldn't easily tell. It wasn't like everything was just black and white, but it was easier to tell truth from fiction back then. You know, truth from lies. They had a hard time faking shit back then. Just the average Joe, uh, trying to fake a photograph or fake video or something. It just, it had to be blurry. It had to, something was off with it. You could tell. Nowadays, you can't tell. I mean, it's really difficult to tell whether they Photoshop shit or AI generated video. Nowadays, it's completely off the rails. Yeah, everything. That's one thing I miss about it is just the reality where you could, tell the difference between false and real, and everything was easier. It seemed like to me, everything was easier in that way, and because we were used to it, and that was just the way of life. Normal everyday stuff now that we took for granted back then, it was easy. It wasn't hard to go to the library. It wasn't hard. You just went to the library. You want to go to the library? Yeah, go to the library. We go to the library. Nowadays, you get a kid doesn't want to go to the library. A grown-up doesn't want to go to the library. You don't want to do these kind of things. It just seems like a lot. And I think that reality is, we're losing it that by the day. By the day, we're losing our grip on reality as a society. We're going more and more into this virtual shit and this online shit and all this stuff, and we're losing touch with actual reality, getting more and more involved in this online type of life and this virtual type of existence, and losing touch with the real world. We're not out there interacting with the real world anymore. And I think that's that's going to be a double-edged sword in a lot of ways. Just like with the burning calories and we're less mobile, we're less active now, and our health, we're less healthy. So there's pros and cons. Yeah, it's easier, but we're not as healthy as we were. It's just the way it is. And so it's going to be the same thing with all this. It's just going to, that progression, if y'all have ever seen the movie Wall-E, where all the people on that spaceship were all fat and they didn't do anything at all. And, I see us going toward that kind of thing. Maybe not up in a spaceship. Maybe that's the way it's going to be on Earth. But something like that. If it continues, if society doesn't collapse before that can happen. So, all right. I'll leave you there with that. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, subscribe, and comment. If you'd like to support the channel by becoming a member, I'll leave that link down in the description, or you can head over to the channel page and become a member that way. If you'd like to support the channel directly, you can click on that super thanks button down there, or you can head over to Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and buy me a cup of coffee. I'll leave that link down in the description as well. If you're interested in Gen X gear, you can head over to Redbubble and check out what we have over there. Gen X Thinks and Gen X branded stuff, t-shirts, coffee mugs, stickers, hoodies, all kinds of cool stuff over there. But I'll leave that link down in the description too. If you can't or don't want to support the channel in any of those ways, you can always do so by sharing these videos on your social media. That helps out a whole awful lot. I sincerely appreciate it. Thank you very much. If you have any ideas for future episodes of Gen X Thinks, please put those down in the comments. Or you can email us, and the email is genxthinks@gmail.com. And as always, stay frosty, Gen X, and I'll see you on the next one.